Hello, everyone, and welcome back to M.R.M Everything, where we discuss everything literally. So, today I'll be explaining to you in detail about the marital status requirement in the DV lottery application form. This is such an important requirement. Like, if you make a mistake during this point or at this point, you're likely to mess up your chances of winning the green card lottery. So, let's begin by defining what marriage is. Marriage is a legally or culturally recognized union between two people. And I need you to note that in the DV lottery application, they only recognize marriage between two people. Like even if you're a man married to two people, you'll have to include one wife. You cannot include both of them, or three of them, or four of them. No matter what number of wives you have, you can only include one spouse. Or if you're a woman married to like five men, you can only include one man in the marital status bit of the application form. So in the DV lottery application form, there are 6 categories of current marital status. Number 1 is the unmarried category. This means you're not married or that you're single and like have never been married. Number 2 is that you're married and your spouse is not a US citizen or US lawful permanent resident. This simply means you're married and like you're living with your spouse, or your spouse is not a US citizen. That is what it simply means. The third category is married and your spouse is a US citizen or a US lawful permanent resident, or LPR. This simply means you're married. Let's say you're in Ghana or you're in Nigeria and your spouse is a US citizen, like he stays there. Or if he's not staying there, he could be like a US citizen. Maybe he won a green card some time back and is now a lawful permanent resident. The fourth category is divorced. This means you are no longer married because the marriage has been legally dissolved. Please note that divorce is totally different from separation, and that divorce has to be recognized by the law. Just because you and your partner disagreed and now you're apart does not mean you're divorced. But if that separation is recognized by the law and has been granted by the law, then you can be termed as divorced. So please do not take divorce if you have no proof of showing that you are divorced, or if the law in your country does not recognize that divorce. Category number 5 is widowed. Widowed simply means you have lost your spouse through death. Whether you're a man or a woman and you've lost your spouse, then this is the category for you. It means you have lost your spouse through death, not through any other means. Category number 6 and the final category is legally separated. This means that you and your partner are still married, but you live apart following a court order. Please note that this separation has to be recognized by the law. Like you have a court order that states that you and your partner are currently separated. You're not staying together, you're married, yes, but you're not staying together. You are separated, and the law recognizes that separation. Moving on, please note that during the application, you must list your spouse. You must list your spouse even if you are currently separated from him or her, unless you are legally separated. If the law in your country recognizes your separation, then you can omit your spouse in your application. But if you're just separated, like you had a disagreement with your spouse and you decided, let me leave for some time, let him stay by himself or herself for some time, and then we'll come back together. That is not a legal separation. You must list your spouse if that is the kind of separation you are in. But if you're legally separated from your partner, then you can omit your spouse in your application. Again, if you and your spouse are legally separated, your spouse will not be able to immigrate with you through the diversity visa program. This means that if the law in your country has granted you a separation, like you have a court order permitting that separation between you and your partner, your spouse won't be able to immigrate with you through the diversity visa program. However, You will not be penalized if you choose to enter the name of a spouse from whom you're legally separated. This means that, like, yes, you're legally separated. The law in your country has issued you with a court order indicating that you are legally separated, but somehow you choose to enter their details in your application. You will not be penalized for that. However, you may win the lottery, but you won't be able to immigrate with him or her if you're legally separated. Like, you can include them, you will not be penalized. If you win the lottery, your partner will not go with you because you're legally separated. This is very important. Please note that if you're not legally separated by a court order, you must include your spouse even if you plan to be divorced before you apply for the diversity visa lottery. Like, you must include that spouse. If you do not have a court order indicated that you are separated from your partner, you must include them. Like, if the law in your country has not granted you a divorce or a court order indicating that you and your partner are separated, you must include your partner in your application. And please note that failure to list your spouse will make you ineligible for a for a diversity visa. As I conclude, please note that if your spouse is a US citizen or a lawful permanent resident of the United States, do not list him or her in your entry. Why? Because a spouse who is already a US citizen or a lawful permanent resident of the United States will not required to be issued a visa. So if in the application form you select that you are married and your spouse is a US citizen, during your entry, the system will not prompt you to include further information on your spouse because they already have that data in their systems because your spouse is already a citizen of that country. In conclusion, please understand that failure to list your eligible spouse or listing someone who is not your spouse will make you ineligible as the diversity visa principal applicant, and your spouse and children will also be ineligible as diversity visa derivative applicants. So just fill in the form with the right details, the correct information, and the honest information. This will increase your chances of being selected. Finally, if you're married but you do not have a marriage certificate, please get yourself one. Visit your nearest registrar of marriages with your partner, apply for one, and if it takes a short time for it to be processed in your country, you may still be within the application period. But please don't give contradicting information in your application. If you're married, indicate you're married. If you're not married, please indicate you're not married. So that's all I had today for you. I hope you've learned, and all the best in your application. If you found this information helpful, please consider hitting the subscribe button and tap on the bell button on your bottom right so that you're notified each time I upload new content.